Welcome to BBC International News. First I will tell you the news title and then the details. Breaking news, air raid sirens in northern Israel. Great news, Biden finally opened up about the student protests, which he said. Top news, all-out Israeli attack on Rafah would amount to disaster, UN chief. Update news, all-out Israeli attack on Rafah would amount to disaster, UN chief. Important news, 7 members of a family were killed in an Israeli bomb attack on an apartment in Gaza City. Listen to the news title so far, now listen to the details.
Air raid sirens in northern Israel. Air raid sirens have sounded at least 4 times in northern Israel. These warnings were issued in less than 30 minutes. This information was reported in a direct report of Al Jazeera, a Qatar-based media outlet, on Tuesday. According to the report, this warning means that there may be rocket or drone attacks. However, no casualties have been reported so far. Also, no group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far. The war between Israel and Hamas has been going on in Gaza since October 8th. More than 34,000 people lost their lives in Gaza. More than 78,000 were injured. On the other hand, 1,200 people were killed and more than 3,000 injured in the attack by Hamas in Israel. Israeli forces and Hezbollah have been fighting since the start of the war. Hezbollah has said that they will continue to attack until the end of the Israeli attack on Gaza. Biden finally opened up about the student protests, which he said. U.S. President Joe Biden called on pro-Palestinian protesters on U.S. university campuses to uphold the rule of law. Biden made this call in a televised statement from the White House on Thursday. He emphasized that discipline must be maintained in the campuses. For weeks, U.S. universities have been rocked by protests against Israel's attacks on Gaza. Pro-Palestinian protesters clashed with police on some campuses. There were clashes with pro-Israel protesters. The police arrested the pro-Palestinian students who participated in the protest. Somewhere the university authorities have taken disciplinary action against the protesting students. Biden has been silent on the issue for so long in such a turbulent situation on the campuses. He made his first direct comment on the ongoing student protest yesterday. The U.S. president said, "We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or suppress dissent. But we are not a lawless country." Biden said, "We are a civil society, and order must be maintained." At the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, in the United States, there was a clash between pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian protesting students on Tuesday at midnight. Later, the police raided the campus. Police arrested more than 200 protesters from there. After this incident, Biden opened up about the student protest. UCLA Chancellor Gene Block said about 300 protesters left campus voluntarily. More than 200 protesters ignored police orders. They were arrested. UCLA officials said Thursday and Friday classes will be online due to campus emergencies. Authorities have asked students to avoid the protest area. All-out Israeli attack on Rafah would amount to disaster, UN chief. UN Chief Antonio Guterres has warned that the response to Israel's raid on the Palestinian town of Rafah in the Gaza Strip will spread throughout the region. The United Nations Secretary-General made such comments on social media about the results of the operation of the Israeli forces in Rafah. Antonio Guterres warned that the reaction of the Israeli operation in Rafah and the full-scale attack there will include catastrophe. The Secretary-General said, "There will be many more civilian casualties. Countless families will be forced to flee again. There is no safe place to go, though. Millions of Palestinians displaced by indiscriminate attacks in various parts of Gaza have settled here as a last resort. Now Israel has started operations in this densely populated area. Palestinians have started fleeing from here to save their lives. The repercussions of the operation will be felt far beyond the West Bank and the entire region," said Antonio Guterres. The UN chief also warned that the situation in the Gaza Strip as a result of Israel's operation in Rafah is moving in the wrong direction. The attack came despite international pleas to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu not to launch an operation in Rafah. Josep Borrell, the European Union's foreign policy chief, said about 1 million Palestinians have fled northern and central Gaza and sought refuge in Rafah due to Israeli attacks. They are staying in piles of tents there. Israel launched the operation in Rafah a day after ordering 100,000 Palestinians from the eastern part of the city to take shelter in tents in Khan Yunis. He started running away from here to save his life. Meanwhile, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell said the attack began despite all requests from the international community to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu not to launch an operation in Rafah. I am afraid that a large number of people are going to be injured in this attack again. There is no safe place in Gaza anymore, said Borrell. AFP reported that the Israeli forces took control of the Palestinian part of the Rafah crossing on the border with Egypt on Tuesday. Earlier, the country closed the Kerem Shalom crossing. Blockade Gaza is now virtually cut off from the rest of the world. The Palestinian resistance organization Hamas announced that it had accepted the ceasefire proposal made by the mediator countries after last Monday evening. But shortly after that, the Israeli forces started massive airstrikes in the eastern area of Rafah, and as part of preparations for the ground campaign. 7 members of a family were killed in an Israeli bomb attack on an apartment in Gaza City. A plume of black smoke rises from a building in Rafah after an Israeli bombardment. Gaza, Palestine, Israeli forces bombed an apartment complex in Gaza City, Gaza Strip, on Wednesday. 7 people were killed in this attack. The Palestinian news agency Wafa News gave this information. The apartment building is located in the Tzaiton neighborhood in the eastern part of Gaza City. According to Wafa News, 7 members of a family were killed in the attack. The dead include a husband, wife, and their 5 children. Meanwhile, Israeli forces bombed a motorcycle in Rafah city of southern Gaza. 2 people were killed in this attack. Some were injured. The attack took place in Salah al-Din Gate area. According to news agency AFP, Israel has started a ground operation in Rafah. Israeli forces took control of the Palestinian side of the Rafah crossing on the border with Egypt on Tuesday. According to the Gaza Ministry of Health, since October 7th of last year, about 34,800 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza by Israeli forces. 70% of the people killed were children and women. What is the alliance between North Korea and Iran? North Korea is now looking to build new relationships with like-minded countries outside of Russia and China. Recently, Pyongyang and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un have turned their attention to Iran. Kim Sung-kyung, a professor at the University of North Korea Studies in Seoul, said, North Korea seems to have a good opportunity to oppose the United States and stand by Iran. Professor Kim Sung-kyung also said that North Korea feels that an opportunity has come in front of them to sell weapons and military technology to Tehran. Sanctions are in place against North Korea and Iran. In the meantime, North Korea wants to get some financial benefits. North Korea sent a high-level trade and financial delegation to Tehran last April. They sent such delegations to Iran after 2019. However, both the countries have kept their mouths shut about what was discussed with the delegation, whether there was any agreement or not. However, there are speculations that military technology, nuclear weapons, and ballistic missiles have been discussed.
Iran-Esdenial.
Iran said it had no talks with North Korea about cooperation on nuclear technology. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Nasser